My wife, Eve, and yes, we're Adam and Eve.
Our Latino community should not trust us.
Political gift that will never stop giving. How is that possible with Donald Trump?
Well.
How is that possible?
I appreciate that. Thank you very much for the
supported.
I didn't understand what he was talking about.
100% MAGA at all times.
Okay. I think climate change is real.
I would like 30 seconds to respond.
I don't support nuclear power.
I've built championship teams. To the Latino community, thank you for the currency of friendship all the years.
I know what it takes to make life better for everyone.
I've delivered results without ever being beholden.
I want to make sure farm workers can have a path to citizenship.
Flooding the airways with lies.
The final U.S. Senate debate starts now.
The problem of inflation and how so many people watching tonight believe their money is worth less tomorrow than it is today because of the inflation rate. Can a senator do anything about it? Congressman Schiff, will have you start.
Particularly women can participate in the workforce. That will raise the economy. But more than that, we need to bring down energy costs. We can do this with a windfall profits tax on oil companies. We can bring down the cost of housing by building a lot more housing. Conan, my family came to California when I was 11 in search for a better life. And we found it here. My wife, Eve, and yes, we're Adam and Eve, her family also came here in search of a better life, and she found it here. I want that to be true for future generations of Californians. And the way we can make that possible is by bringing down the cost of goods, and particularly housing.
Thank you.
Yes, we need to make sure that workers get paid a wage that reflects what they contribute at their companies and at their jobs. But we also need Washington to get in the game. Decade after decade, they haven't been there. You can't raise a wage an hour or two and close the tremendous gap that people face in trying to afford childcare or college. My colleague, Representative Schiff, says, for example, that he wants to bring down the costs of childcare, but he isn't on either of the two major Democratic bills that would do that. He's not on a bill to provide rental assistance to people for housing, although all of these things are in his plans. That's the gap between Congressman Schiff and candidate Schiff.
And it goes from the table in the morning, where mom's trying to figure out the week whether she can feed her children as she wants to the gas station, where we've seen gas go up $2, $3. And by the way, when I go to the gas station at 7:30 in the morning, hardworking Californians are going there. They're not buying 10 gallons. They're buying $10 worth of gas. And then it goes to schools and affordability. But this was all on their watch.
Thank you, Mr. Garvey. Congressman Lee, you're sticking by the $50 an hour minimum wage?
Let's be honest. First of all, we have to talk about what it takes for people to live in California. We have a huge affordability crisis. The cost of living is much too high. First, at the federal level, of course, we have to raise the minimum wage. We haven't raised it in a decade. $7.25 to $17 in 2025. Okay, great first step. But in California, for example, we have $16 an hour now. And believe you me, every single study that you have seen that has been written about the affordability crisis in California, people are working 2 and 3 jobs just to pay rent, just to afford child care. We have to think about and talk about a living wage. What does it mean to have a living wage in California? Over $100,000 in many parts of California. People are just barely surviving. They're living on the edge. So we have to think about what it takes to make sure that people can afford to live in California.
Thank you,
that means a living wage.
Do you consider the deficit a problem, or will it work itself out? Or if the federal budget needs to be cut, where would you cut? You don't have much time on this. 30 seconds. Congresswoman Porter, I'll have you start.
I think that we need to be fierce advocates for our tax dollars. We are all sending our money to Washington, and we should expect a return on that money. So I am proud to be a person who will do the oversight, who will push, and who will ask, are we getting a return? Is this bill going to invest in America's future, or is it just pork barrel spending to satisfy career politicians, corporate donors? So I'm going to champion investing in things like education and infrastructure, where it returns money to the United States.
Is the deficit's not an issue for you?
The deficit is an issue, and where we should cut it is wasteful military spending with the Pentagon, which has never passed an audit.
Thank you. Congressman Schiff, could you take that issue, the deficit?
Yeah, the deficit is a real problem. And I think a big part of the reason why it's a problem is that the wealthy and corporations are not paying their fair share.
Yeah, the budget deficit is a problem. And let me tell you, when these Trump-era tax cuts expire, the billionaires must be part of paying their fair share. So we need to go back to the tax code and make sure that billionaires do pay their fair share.
Of course the debt is serious. Over the last 4 years, we've seen the debt go sky high. Why? Because it's excessive spending by government. And my fellows up here, they understand that. It's been on their watch. 60 years of combined congressional work has caused this spiraling debt to go higher and higher.
Given the state of the world right now, is the U.S. sending enough? Are they spending enough on defense? Are we prepared for any kind of major conflict?
We need to recruit our best and brightest into the military. At the same time, we have to make sure that's where our tax dollars are going, to actually make us safer, not just to help huge corporations get richer through the Pentagon budget.
Peace through strength. We have to remember that we're the torchbearer for democracy around the world. We have to have policy that shows our enemies that we're serious, we will address every issue when approached. But we also have to make sure our military is capable.
The Pentagon budget is excessive. It's $890 billion. We need to cut at least $100 billion out of the military budget and put into readiness and put into our troops.
We have a challenge recruiting because we don't pay our service members enough for the dangers that they have to face and the hardships their families have to face. And there are areas where we need to cut the Pentagon budget. I remember meeting with President Obama to discuss our deficit and debt problem, and one of my colleagues used the occasion to argue for more F-22s, something the Pentagon said they didn't need, we couldn't afford. And the president said, you know, if we're going to handle the deficit, I need to make national security decisions based on national security. And that's what we need to do.
I'm not satisfied with what Democrats or Republicans have been delivering. I'm of a generation who has only ever known the amazing contributions that immigrants make. The House of Representatives passed the Dream and Promise Act to help give status to deliver not just a pathway to citizenship, but we need to give citizenship now.
You've been in Congress for 26 years now. Do you bear any responsibility for this?
Let me first say that our Latino community should not trust us. They should grade us based on the work that we have done, our voting record, and exactly what we believe in, and just in terms of immigrants.
Now, we're never going to get the help from the Republicans. Mr. Garvey's party believes that this is a political gift that we'll never stop giving. They're not going to help us with this. We're going to have to do it ourselves, which means we're going to have to get rid of the filibuster.
The recent bipartisan immigration bill, a historic one, was killed by Republicans 2 weeks ago, apparently because Donald Trump wants to keep the issue alive so he can use it in his presidential campaign. How can Latinos trust Republicans on this issue as well? And you have 60 seconds.
Well, first of all, it's an honor to be with the Latino community tonight. We've had 50 years of a wonderful relationship. And that's why, as your next elected U.S. Senator from California, I pledge that you will be my priority.
How would you have voted, Ms. Lee? You have 15 seconds.
I would have voted no, quite frankly. For me, the bill was not meeting the standard that I insist on, and that is immigration reform should include comprehensive immigration reform. It should be humane. It should include provisions for it being orderly, and it should have due process. And this did not have any of that.
Thank you, Congressmember Lee. Mr. Schiff.
Alex Padilla had no seat at the table during these negotiations, nor did any other Hispanic caucus member, nor did any other border Democrat. It's not surprising the package turned out to be so lopsided. I would support a package that had a comprehensive immigration reform. This was not that.
Your time's up. Thank you. Ms. Porter?
I would have definitely voted no on the immigration package. It was against our American values. It demonized immigrants by trying to ignore the fact that they come here seeking a better life. The reality is our country needs immigrants. If we're going to have a strong economy in the future, we should be focusing on the real problems like fentanyl, human trafficking, and gun trafficking.
Mr. Garvey. If that bill comes around again, how would you vote?
Not the way it was laid out. There were too many things packed in there, too many things hidden. I would have voted against it.
If the president has said on a number of occasions that the United States would deploy U.S. troops to aid Taiwan if there was an invasion by China. Do you support that platform, Congresswoman Lee? No? Yes, no?
No, I would not support that.
Right. Mr. Schiff?
I support the president's position.
Congresswoman Porter?
I would support safeguarding us from the threat of China.
Okay. So U.S. troops okay. Mr. Garvey?
No troops on the ground.
Okay. So if there was a resolution on the floor that said the United States stands with Israel in its determination there will be no peace in Gaza until the Hamas government is removed in the leadership position that it holds in the Gaza Strip. We support that declaration by the Israeli government. Yes or no, Congresswoman Lee?
No, I support a ceasefire. That's the only way
Congressman
Israel
Mr.
will be secure and
Yes.
the Palestinians.
I'm sorry. You vote yes for that, Mr. Schiff?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Ms. Porter?
I would
Yes
vote,
or no?
I would vote no because
Okay, you can
Israel-
explain later, but you vote no. Mr. Garvey?
No ceasefire.
Okay, so again, along the same lines, we'll flip it. Would you vote for a resolution that said Israel has to impose an immediate ceasefire right now, no conditions, unconditional ceasefire, end the war? Congresswoman Lee?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Schiff?
No.
Ms. Porter?
No.
Mr. Garvey?
No. But as everybody looks at us for strength or weakness, we have to maintain that strength so that when people look at us, we are a deterrent for China, for Russia, for Iran, anyone who feels that they can become a threat to democracy.
Conan, I agree with Mr. Garvey. We should be the torchbearer of democracy. But how is that possible with Donald Trump? How is that possible?
I appreciate that. Thank you very much for the. You took up the seconds that he wasn't using. You could respond to that, Mr. Garvey. This comment from Congressman Schiff.
I didn't understand what he was talking about.
Well, let me explain.
Well, no. We appreciate that, Congressman.
Democracy with Donald Trump.
We appreciate it. Defend. His argument is that you voted for Donald Trump twice. You've said you haven't decided on what's going to happen. But defend, in your words, the foreign policy agenda of the previous president. 30 seconds.
I look into this camera and talk to the citizens of California. One-on-one, as your senator, I will do everything to maintain your security. I'm not concerned with any one being. I'm concerned with 38 million Californians and 330 million Americans.
Ms. Porter, you have 15 seconds.
Look, the reality is Mr. Garvey has been unclear on where he stands with regard to Donald Trump. He's even said he might vote for Joe Biden. There is a Republican that is dangerous in this race, and that's Trump Republican Eric Early, who has said he will be 100% MAGA at all times.
Okay, thank you very much, Congresswoman. I appreciate that.
I think climate change is real. I think it's both man-made and both natural. I believe that 3 years ago there was a rush to judgment by the administration. I believe that gas and oil lines were turned off, which caused a tremendous strain on our economy. I think if it would have been more thought out, this would have had less stress.
I am proud to be the candidate in this race who has spent time working in Congress on climate issues. I serve on the House Natural Resources Committee, and I've had bills passed into law to hold big polluters to account.
I don't think Representative Porter has been fully clear about her own record of taking thousands of dollars from people in the oil industry, thousands from Wall Street bankers, thousands from people in pharma industry, as Open Secrets has revealed. The problem with purity tests, as Representative Porter would like to establish, is invariably the people establishing them don't meet them. What Californians want is someone who can get things done, not that sets up false purity tests.
Ms. Porter, you have
I would like 30 seconds to respond. That's what he used was 30 seconds. Rebuttal, please.
No, he had 30 seconds to respond to climate change. You have 15 seconds to respond to the rebuttal.
The truth is that the ad running against me by a dark, shady super PAC has been rated false. Don't take my word for it. Independent fact checkers at the Sacramento Bee have rated that ad false.
Climate justice is extremely important, and in the Senate, I would fight to make sure we pass the Green New Deal, which includes a just transition for our workers from a fossil fuel economy to a green economy.
A, do you support the extension of Diablo Canyon, and does nuclear have a role in fighting climate change? Congresswoman Porter, you have 30 seconds.
I think Diablo Canyon needs to be safely decommissioned.
Congressman Schiff, nuclear.
I support the governor's plan to decommission the plant.
Well, I support the decommissioning of the Diablo Canyon nuclear plant. I don't support nuclear power.
I believe in nuclear energy. I believe this plant should be become safe, and it should be viable.
How can we have confidence you know how to get this under control? Mr. Schiff, we're going to start with you.
We're going to need to make sure we have strong regulation of AI to protect the public good. We cannot afford to make the mistakes we did with social media, when essentially we gave them free rein to do as they would with this great experiment in which we were all the subject.
AI can be used for good. It can be used to harm people. I think it's important that right now we develop a regulatory environment so that it can be used for good. When you look at what has happened with technology, for example, and look at what happened to what's happening to our young people with no guardrails, we can use AI because it's here to stay to help with our climate crisis, to help with education, with health care. And also we have to be careful that it's not used to discriminate against people, because there's some real issues around racial justice that we have to address with AI. Now's the time to do it.
Thank you. Mr. Garvey, should it be regulated? What do you think?
Yeah. Excuse me. I see AI is here to stay. I see it doing wonderful things in medicine. I am concerned that it's starting to eliminate jobs, white-collar and blue-collar jobs.
You can't make a toaster and put it in the marketplace and have it explode, but you can make an AI product, and people have that put it into the marketplace that reinforces racial discrimination and that is unfair and that hurts competition.
What do you believe is going to be like the impact or the influence that you're going to have in the Senate for 6 years?
I've built championship teams. I bring people together. And I've said on day one, we'll start a march to go to all 99 other senators and to meet with them and to tell them I'm there to build consensus. I'm there to bring people together. And a dysfunctional Washington needs a leader like myself, a new face with new ideas.
This is your district, Ms. Lee, a city where our fellow journalists can't go out to work without an armed security guard to cover any story. Do you bear some responsibility, and what are you doing about it? You have 30 seconds.
Public safety is real in my district, throughout the state of California, and throughout the country. A couple of things we are doing now, and we must continue to do. One is working together with the federal government, state government, local government, to make sure that we have the public safety team together to really address violent crime, because police officers need to be able to address violent crime, and the team that has come together, the public safety team, are addressing the public safety issues that we're faced with right now.
With regard to endorsements, I would say that I'm tremendously proud to have the endorsements of folks like Attorney General Rob Bonta, State Senator Scott Wiener.
These are not your colleagues. These are not people who work in the House with you on a day-to-day basis. These are state senators. This is the Attorney General for the state of California and Elizabeth Warren out of the Senate. Why not your colleagues?
I'd have the endorsement of Robert Garcia, and I'm tremendously proud of that. And look, I have something important in common with Robert, which is I went to Congress to not be beholden to corporate special interests.
What I have learned about myself during this campaign is that my background and experiences and many of the obstacles that I have faced in my life, so many Californians are facing them now. And what I have learned also is that I have been able to help so many people meet these challenges, and I intend to do that in the United States Senate.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. Mr. Schiff.
What I've learned is that Californians are really looking for somebody that can work with other people to get things done. There are real problems with housing. There's real problems with child care. There's real problems with affording the cost of living. And I guess I've found about myself an ability to work with others, to attract others, to team up together. Not just my colleagues in Congress, but Speaker Pelosi, Barbara Boxer, many, the majority of statewide labor organizations.
Thank you, Mr. Schiff.
And that's an important skill for the Senate.
Mr. Garvey.
People around the state have come up to me and said, Steve, thank you. Bless you. Thank you for running. We need you. Career politicians have failed us. We need a new voice back in Washington, in the Senate. We trust you. We put our life in your hands.
But what have you learned about yourself during the campaign?
I started this campaign because I believe in the people. I love my state. I want to represent all the people of California, and I'll be relentless in the pursuit of that.
Mr. Garvey, we'll start with you. This is time for a wrap-up.
I didn't get to respond to the question at all.
Ms. Porter, your time.
Thank you. I would say that what I have learned about myself is that institutional Washington, which serves itself, doesn't want to change very much. And that we have seen this with big, dark money, even here in California, the greatest democracy in the United States, flooding the airways with lies.
Thank you, Ms. Porter.
So, closing statements, you have 45 seconds. This is the last debate before the primary election. Mr. Garvey, go ahead.
Well, to the Latino community, thank you for the currency of friendship all the years. To all the people of California, this has been a journey. But if you feel the quality of your life is the same now that it was 3 years ago, if you believe this crime in the streets that is relentless, if you believe that the crisis at the border is real, if you believe that inflation is stifling your family, then I want you to vote for me. I want you to go to stevegarvey.com. And you know in your heart. And tonight was a night where I'm putting my heart and soul into your mind and body, because I want to represent you for 6 years.
Well, thank you for inviting us to be with you again. Thank you to the voters who have watched this debate. I think it's important to know that I know what it takes to make life better for everyone in California. I have faced so many obstacles, such as being on public assistance, such as being on food stamps, not being able to afford childcare, having to take my children to class with me. I know the 20 million people who are living one paycheck away from poverty. I know, I see you, I want to work for you in the United States Senate to make life better for you. I know what it takes to fix our democracy and to protect our democracy. I know what it takes to protect our reproductive freedom, and I'm so proud that Reproductive Freedom for All has endorsed me in this campaign, because our democratic rights are being taken away. Thank you again. Please vote for Barbara Lee at ca.com.
Senator Feinstein was a giant in the state because she had the ability to take on the big fights, but she also had the ability to get things done. She took on the NRA, and we got an assault weapons ban. She worked with people throughout the state of California to deliver for Californians everywhere. This is what I'm going to bring to the Senate. Senator Feinstein was a good example of the fact that you've got talkers and you've got doers. She was a doer. She got things done. For the Imperial Valley, I want to make sure the mineral wealth of the Imperial Valley helps people in the Imperial Valley. For people in the Central Valley, I want to make sure they have water they can drink. I want to make sure farm workers can have a path to citizenship. I want to make sure those in the north of the state are protected from wildfire and have access to rural health care and broadband. I want to be a senator for all Californians, and that's what I will be.
Californians, you don't have to choose between having a career politician who's beholden to special interests and having someone who simply doesn't have a lot of ideas or experience at all. I can give you an example of how I've delivered results without ever being beholden. During the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, when we were scared and we had no resources, just at home watching a graph of rising cases, I went toe-to-toe with Trump's top public health official, and I got him to promise free COVID testing for every single American, regardless of immigration status, regardless of health insurance. That saved lives. You can have results without having a career politician who does Washington's corporate agenda's bidding.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman Porter.
Time's up for all of us at this point. Thanks so much for joining us tonight here on NBC4 and Telemundo 52.